Jack bent down and wiped sweat from his forehead.
Yeah.
The air inside the ancient ruins was dry and heavy. He checked his scanner again, but the screen just blinked with static. Next to him, Leora, a tall alien girl with soft green skin and long silver hair, looked around the crumbling stone walls. They were deep inside a buried alien temple on planet Trelos, part of a joint human-alien research mission. The rest of the team waited outside while Jack and Leora took the risk of going deeper. "This place is older than anything we've studied," Jack whispered. Liora nodded, her eyes glowing softly in the dark. "My ancestors once feared these halls. Now we try to understand them." They kept walking through the tunnel, stepping over broken stone tiles. Strange carvings covered the walls, spirals, stars, and shapes neither of them recognized. Jack's flashlight flickered, but he tapped it and kept going. Leora held a small crystal that gave off a gentle blue light. Her fingers brushed the wall as they moved. Suddenly, the ground shook beneath their feet. Jack dropped to one knee, grabbing the side of the tunnel. "Quake." Leora's voice was tight. "No. Something is collapsing." A loud crack echoed through the tunnel. Before they could react, a wave of dust and falling rocks rushed toward them. Jack grabbed Leora's hand and pulled her forward, but it was too late. Stones rained down from the ceiling. The tunnel behind them crumbled, sealing the entrance. Everything went dark for a moment. Jack coughed and waved the dust away. His flashlight was gone, but Leora's crystal still glowed. She lay a few feet away, half covered by a large rock. Jack crawled to her and began pushing the rock. Leora groaned, her face twisted in pain. "My leg. It's stuck." He looked down. Her right leg was pinned under the heavy stone, crushed near the knee. Blood darker than human blood oozed from the wound. Jack pushed with all his strength, but the rock didn't budge. "We have to move it," Jack shouted. Liora shook her head. "No, it's too heavy, and we're trapped." Jack sat back and looked around. The ceiling had fallen behind them, and the way they came in was now completely blocked. No signal came through his communicator. They were trapped in a sealed room, maybe 10 meters wide, with no visible exit. He got to work, checking his tools. He pulled out a small scanner, a few lights, and a laser cutter. Searched the walls, hoping for a hidden passage or a vent, anything to escape. Hours passed, and the light from Leora's crystal began to dim. Jack sat beside her.
"How are you?"
Holding up, Leora was pale. She was sweating, but her voice was calm. "I'll survive. But not forever." Jack looked at her leg. The wound was getting worse. Infection would come. He knew it. And they still had no way out. Then Leora said something Jack didn't expect. "Cut off my leg." He blinked. "What? You heard me? Remove my leg." "I can't move." "Well, it's stuck. But if you cut it, I can heal." Jack stared at her. "You'll heal? Like grow it back?" Leora nodded. "Yes. Slowly, but it will return. My species can regenerate.
Oh.
We learned it from nature long ago. But only if the wound is clean." Jack shook his head. "I can't do that. It'll hurt you. I'll find another way."
Ah.
"There is no time, Jack." Her voice was quiet. "You found a small gap in the corner. You said it was too small for both of us. But if I lose this leg, I can crawl, and we can both escape." He rubbed his face. The thought of hurting her made his hands shake. She trusted him, but he had never done anything like this before. What if something goes wrong? Then I'll die anyway, stuck under this rock.
Yeah.
Smiled weakly. "But if you do this, we have a chance." Jack stood up and walked to the gap in the corner. It was narrow in a way she could crawl through with her full body. But if her leg was gone, he returned, his heart pounding. "I'll do it, but you have to tell me how." Leora took a deep breath. "Cut above the knee, straight and fast. Then burn the wound closed with your laser. It will hurt, but I will not scream." Jack nodded, his throat dry. He got his tools ready. He cleaned the blade. Leora looked into his eyes. "Thank you," she whispered, "for trusting me." Jack steadied himself, said a small prayer, and began. Jack's hands trembled as he stared at the blade in his grip. He had seen many things during his time working with alien teams, strange planets, dangerous storms, even hostile life forms, but nothing had prepared him for this. Leora lay back against the stone floor, her breathing steady despite the pain in her crushed leg. Her skin had turned pale blue around the injury, and Jack knew it was getting worse by the minute. Her eyes stayed calm, focused, like she had already accepted what was about to happen. "Are you sure?" he asked again, his voice barely a whisper. "Yes," she said. "We don't have another way. Once it's done, we move." Knelt beside her and unrolled a small medical kit. He wasn't a doctor, but his engineering suit had emergency tools enough to do this, if only just. He wiped the blade with a cleanser, then carefully positioned it above the crushed part of her leg. The muscle and bones still looked whole. Leora gripped the edge of a broken stone with both hands. "Do it fast," she said. "Don't stop, even if I scream." Jack closed his eyes for one moment, then nodded. He cut. The sound was awful wet and sharp, but Jack didn't stop. His jaw tightened, and he forced himself to keep going until the leg came free. Leora gasped and arched, her back in pain, but she didn't scream. Her body shook, but she didn't cry out. She was stronger than anyone Jack had ever met. He quickly pulled the laser cutter from his belt and activated the beam. He pressed it against the wound, sealing it shut as best as he could. The smell made him feel sick, but he kept going until the bleeding stopped. When he finally looked up, Leora was breathing hard, sweat dripping from her forehead, but her eyes were still open. "You did well," she whispered. Jack wrapped the wound with bandages and helped her sit up. He looked at her leg. What was left of it? It was gone from the knee down, a clean cut. He had done it. Had really done it. "We can rest for a minute," Jack said. "No," Leora answered. "The air is getting thinner. Help me onto your back. We move now." Jack didn't argue. Carefully lifted her and secured her behind him with straps from his gear. She was light, much lighter than a human, and her arms wrapped around his neck to hold on. The small gap he had found earlier was narrow, just a crack between two stones. With Leora's full body, it would have been impossible. But now, with her leg gone, they had a chance. Jack dropped to his belly and began crawling into the dark. The tunnel was tight. Sharp rocks scraped his arms and legs as he pushed forward. Dust filled the air, and each breath felt harder than the last. Leora's body pressed against his back, but she'd never complained. She whispered now and then, giving him directions, telling him to keep going. "I can feel wind ahead," she said once. "There's a way out, I know it." Jack kept crawling. He didn't know how long they had been moving, only that every inch forward was painful. He could feel his energy fading, but the thought of stopping scared him more. Finally, after what felt like forever, the tunnel opened into a larger space. Jack rolled over and lay flat, breathing hard. Above him was a faint blue glow. He sat up. Slowly, they were inside another chamber. This one was different. The walls shimmered with crystals that gave off soft light. In the middle of the room stood a strange structure, like a control panel made of glass and metal. Alien symbols floated in the air above it. Liora looked around with wide eyes. "This is a control room, part of the temple." Jack helped her, down gently, setting her against the wall. She touched the ground, and her fingers glowed faintly. The same glow traveled across the floor, reaching the panel, responded to her touch. "Can you use it?" Jack asked. "I think so," she said. "My ancestors built this. I can try." Leora reached toward the symbols, tapping them one by one. The room hummed softly, and a low vibration moved through the walls. Jack turned and saw something even more hopeful. A small device in the corner lit up. It looked like an old beacon. Jack rushed to it and checked the screen. "This is a signal booster. If I can power it, it'll send a rescue ping to the surface." He pulled out his emergency battery and connected it. The beacon blinked, then flashed green dot signal. Signal sent. Jack returned to Leora, who leaned back, exhausted but smiling. "We did it," he nodded. "They'll find us. This might take a few hours, but they'll come." Leora closed her eyes. "Good, because I don't think I can move anymore." Jack sat beside her and took her hand gently. "You don't have to. You already saved us. She smiled faintly. And you saved me. As they sat there, waiting in the glow of the crystals, Jack looked down at her leg. Already, tiny lines of tissue were forming. Her body was beginning the process of healing. It was real. She hadn't lied. She had risked everything and trusted him to help. Jack leaned back and whispered to the silent room, "Hang in there. Help is coming." Jack leaned against the wall of the glowing chamber. His arms ached, and dust still clung to his hair and face. Leora sat beside him, her eyes closed but breathing steady. The soft light from the crystals made the place feel quiet and calm, almost like a dream. But it wasn't. They were still deep underground, still waiting for someone to come. The signal beacon blinked slowly in the corner. Green light. Rescue message sent. Now it was only a matter of time. He looked over at Leora's leg, or what was left of it. The bandage was still holding. But under it, he could see something strange. Tiny glowing strands were reaching out from the stump. They moved slowly, like living vines. It was happening. Her body was rebuilding itself, just like she said. Jack whispered, "You weren't kidding." Leora opened her eyes. "I told you it would grow back. My people call it the return. It's painful, but it works." "How long does it take? A few days for full shape? Maybe longer for strength? Enough to walk after the second." "Sunrise." Jack nodded. "Well, we've got time to wait." Leora looked up at the crystal-covered ceiling. "You humans are strange," she said softly. "Most species wouldn't do what you did. Not for someone they barely know." Jack gave a weak smile. "We don't leave people behind, not even alien friends." They sat in silence for a while. It's only the hum of the chamber filled the space. "Ack!" Jack checked his supplies. 2 water packs left, 1 ration bar. Not much, but enough to hold out for 1 more day. Suddenly, the floor shook beneath them. Jack jumped to his feet. Another tremor. Leora's hand pressed to the ground. "No, not a natural one. Something's moving below us." Jack looked toward the only other path leading out of the chamber. A dark tunnel with no lights. "Could it be the rescue team?" he asked. Liora shook her head. "No, their path is above. This is something else." Jack took out his flashlight and pointed it at the tunnel. He didn't like what he saw. Shadows moved at the far end, slow and strange. Like something crawling, Lara reached for her crystal and held it tight. "This place was once a fortress. Not all things here are dead," Great Jack muttered. "So we're not alone." He grabbed a metal rod from his pack. It wasn't a real weapon, but it would do if something tried to attack. The sounds grew louder, scratching, dragging, clicking. Clicking low, tried to stand. But her leg still wasn't ready. Jack helped her lean against the wall. "Stay here," he said. "If it's trouble, I'll block the way." "Be careful," she said. Jack moved toward the tunnel slowly, heart pounding. He raised the light higher, and he saw them creatures. With hard shells, 6 legs, and glowing red eyes. They looked like insects but were bigger than dogs. Their jaws clicked as they crawled forward. "Definitely not friendly," Jack muttered. He turned back and yelled, "We've got company." Leora's eyes widened. Temple guardians. They were built long ago. They protect the core. They look angry. They always do. Jack grabbed a piece of crystal from the ground and threw it toward the tunnel. It hit the floor with a sharp crack. One of the creatures rushed forward. Jack swung the metal rod and struck it hard. Sparks flew, and the thing stumbled back. But another came right after Laura reached out and touched the wall. The crystals around her glowed brighter. Low hum spread through the room. "Jack, lead them near me," he shouted. He didn't ask why. He backed up, drawing the creatures. Closer. One lunged at him, and he dodged, barely missing its sharp legs. Another tried to crawl up the wall behind him. He spun and knocked it off. As he stepped near Leora, the light from the walls flared. A pulse of energy shot out from the crystal behind her. It hit the creatures, knocking them to the ground. Their shells cracked, and they twitched, stunned. Jack gasped. "What did you do?" "This room responds to bloodlines. My ancestors built it. It listens to me." Jack smiled. Remind me to stay on your good side. He walked over to one of the creatures. It wasn't moving. The others had crawled back into the tunnel. Do you think more will come? He asked. Probably, Leora said. This place is a maze. And some guardians never sleep. Jack looked back at the tunnel. Then we need to get out of here before night falls. There's another way, she said, pointing toward the far wall. The wall behind that pillar. It hides a lift, an old one. Jack hurried over and inspected the wall. Behind a large, cracked pillar, he found a hidden panel. It looked ancient, but some of the lights were still working. You're right, it's a lift, Leora smiled. We used them in the old days. I've seen drawings. Jack tapped a few buttons. The panel lit up, and the floor trembled slightly. A round platform slowly rose from the ground. It looked worn but stable. Jack returned and picked Leora up. Ready for part 2 of this crazy day? She nodded. Let's go home. He stepped onto the lift with her in his arms. The platform lowered into the darkness, leaving the crystal chamber behind. The humming sound faded as they sank deeper into the unknown, but Jack didn't feel fear. Not anymore. He had faced panic, pain, and even strange beasts, but he wasn't alone. And somehow, that made all the difference. The lift moved down slowly, its surface shaking under Jack's boots. He held Leora in his arms, her head resting gently against his chest. The tunnel around them was dark, lit only by a dim glow coming from the panel near the edge of the platform. Dust floated through the air like tiny stars. How deep do you think this goes? Jack asked softly. Not far, Leora replied. If the temple's design hasn't changed, the lower levels lead to emergency tunnels, old escape routes from the wars long ago. Jack looked down. You're sure? Not completely, she said with a faint smile. But we don't have better choices. After a few more seconds, the platform stopped. It hissed as it locked into place. Jack stepped off carefully, still holding Leora, and looked around.
The new chamber was much colder. The walls were smooth metal now, not
stone. Old lights flickered above them, and the smell of stale air filled their lungs. Jack set Leora down on a small ledge and checked her leg. The skin was now forming a soft layer of muscle. The process of regrowth was slow but steady. A little but gave a nod. You're healing faster than I thought, Jack said. My body is trying to keep up. Stress can speed it. But I'll still need rest soon. Jack stood and walked forward. The tunnel ahead split into two, paths one wide and clean, the other narrow and filled with broken tiles. Any idea which way leads out? Leora pointed to the narrow one, the broken path. It's older. The wide one might lead to the control center, but those areas are usually locked. Jack helped her up and supported her as they walked toward the narrow tunnel. The walls seemed to breathe as they passed, humming softly beneath the surface. Why was this place abandoned? Jack asked. Too dangerous, Leora said. Long ago, during the old wars, the core reactors here were unstable. Many were shut down, and the temple sealed. Jack looked over his shoulder. So are we walking into a reactor? No, just old tunnels that fed power to them. They're quiet now. Mostly they moved slowly, one step at a time. Jack carried most of Leora's weight, still she refused to stop. Even when her leg began to ache again, they reached a strange door, one made of a black metal Jack had never seen. He tapped it, and it made no sound. It's just a dull, heavy feel. No handles, no buttons. No buttons. Liora stepped forward and placed her palm on the surface. For a moment, then a soft light flowed from her hand. The door glowed, split down the middle, and slid open with a quiet whoosh. It still remembers. Me, she said with a tired smile. You've got some powerful ancestors. They stepped into a circular chamber filled with ancient machines. Glass tubes ran along the walls, some filled with faint blue liquid. Strange symbols floated in the air above a wide console. It looked like a forgotten lab. Jack looked around. What is this place? Leora's voice was quiet. A sanctuary. During battles, injured were brought here, even ones missing arms or hearts. This was a healing place, so it can help you. Yes, but more than that, it might still have a working terminal, a direct uplink to the surface. Jack moved to the console. The screen lit up, and alien letters blinked into shape. He stared at it, not understanding a single word. "Can you read this?" he asked. Limped to his side and placed her hand over his. Letters shifted, turning into a simple, common language. "Now I can," she said. They found a menu and searched for connections. Jack watched as Leora tapped through the system with ease. Her hands moved like someone who had always belonged here. "We're lucky," she said. "This room still has power, and the antenna above us is still whole." Smiled. "Can we talk to the surface?" "Not directly, but we can activate a beacon burst. One that sends both signal and map. They'll know where we are now." Jack nodded. "Do it." Leora pressed the final command. The console buzzed, and a loud chime echoed through the room. Above them, a light beam shot through a small hole in the ceiling, sending the signal into the sky. Jack looked up, feeling something shift inside him. Hope. Real hope. "They'll find us now," he whispered. Liora leaned against the wall. "Yes, but it still may take time." Jack walked over and wrapped his jacket around her. "We can wait a little longer," she smiled. "You're not what I expected, Jack." He sat down beside her. "What were you expecting?" "Humans always seemed loud, impatient, quick to judge. But you're different. Gentle, brave." Jack laughed quietly. "Well, you're the first alien I ever cut a leg off for. Maybe that changed me?" Leora chuckled. "Maybe." Just then, the ground shook again stronger than before. Jack stood. "Quickly, that's not normal." Leora reached out, feeling the vibration. "Something's rising from below." Guardian robots again. "No. Something bigger. Something old." A warning symbol flashed on the console. Red lights blinked along the walls. Jack read the screen. "Emergency lockdown?" "It's the core," Leora said. "The old reactor, it's waking up." "You said it was shut down?" "It was. But using the system. Sending a signal. Maybe it triggered something." Jack helped Leora stand. "We have to get out now." "Yes, the emergency tunnel. There's one near the old sanctuary stairs. Leads straight up to the outer cliffs. Can you walk?" "I'll try." Jack lifted her again and rushed toward the back of the chamber, where a set of stairs wound upward into the dark. Behind them, the machines began to hum louder. The old power was coming to life. If they didn't move fast, the place might seal again or worse. As they climbed, dust rained from the ceiling. Deep below, something massive groaned awake, as if the entire temple had a sleeping heart that was now beating again. Jack kept going, one step at a time, holding Leora close, never looking back. The stairs were steep, and the air grew hotter with every step Jack took. We could feel the deep rumble under his feet now, constant and growing stronger. The sound of old metal creaking echoed through the ancient walls. Something was moving. Far below, something big. He held Leora tightly in his arms as he climbed. Her body was weak, but light. Her eyes stayed open, watching the path ahead, even as she breathed heavily. "How much farther?" Jack asked, his voice short of breath. "The sanctuary stairs lead to a maintenance corridor," she said. "Once we reach that, there's an escape hatch near the upper cliffs, and it still works. If we're lucky." "Yes." Jack didn't slow down. He pushed through the pain in his legs, the burning in his chest, and the growing fear behind him. The ancient temple was waking up, and whatever was waking with it didn't sound friendly. As they reached the top of the stairs, the stone walls changed. Smooth metal walls replaced old stone, and the air became cooler. Broken lights lined the ceiling, flickering weakly. Jack spotted a panel marked with strange symbols. Laura raised her hand and touched the panel. It glowed for a second, then the wall hissed open, revealing a narrow passage filled with loose wires and hanging cables. "This is it," she said. "Old repair path. The hatch is at the end." Jack stepped into the passage. It was tight and filled with dust, but it was dry and solid. He could move faster now. Leora's arms stayed around his neck, her voice low in his ear. "I can feel it, Jack. The reactor. It's not just waking. It's preparing for shutdown failure. Jack didn't like the sound of that. What happens if it fails? The temple might collapse. Or worse. Release ancient defense systems. Great. As if robot bugs weren't enough, they moved faster. Sparks flickered from the ceiling above. Strange sounds echoed behind them, grinding, pulsing. Like engines starting after thousands of years. They should have destroyed this place, Jack said. My people tried, Leora answered. But the temple fought back. It was built to protect itself, even from its makers. After several minutes, they reached the end of the tunnel. A round hatch stood in the wall. Jack set Leora down gently and inspected it. There was a wheel lock in the center, covered in dust. He grabbed the wheel and turned it. It moved slowly, stiff from age, but finally gave way with a loud creak. The hatch popped open, letting in fresh air and faint sunlight. Jack smiled. Close. He climbed out first, then reached back and lifted Leora up. They stepped into a rocky cave with sunlight pouring through a crack above them. Cool wind touched their faces for the first time in what felt like forever. Leora sat on a rock. Closing her eyes, we made it. Jack checked his comm device. The screen blinked. Then a clear signal appeared. Rescue beacon received. Rescue ship en route. ATA. 15 minutes. They're coming, he said. Lara opened her eyes. Thank the stars. Jack looked. At her leg, it had formed a smooth base below her knee. Small toes were starting to grow. I was amazed by how fast it was healing. You weren't lying, he said. Your body really does rebuild. Leora smiled. It's slow, but it works. He sat down beside her, letting the cool wind wash over his face. For the first time, he allowed himself to relax. No more tunnels, no more robots, no more falling. Rocks or ancient doors. You know, he said, when I signed up for this mission, I thought I'd be fixing machines, not cutting off limbs and escaping lost temples. Leora laughed softly. I thought I'd be translating stone tablets, not trusting a human to save my life. Jack leaned back and looked at the sky through the crack above. Birds flew in the distance. Clouds moved slowly across the horizon. It felt like freedom. Then they heard it, a deep roar from below. Jack stood quickly. What was that? Leora's face turned serious. Something didn't stay inside. Before they could react, a part of the cliff near the cave cracked open. Smoke and steam burst out as a massive metal shape crawled upward from the rocks. It was huge, 20 feet tall, with glowing red eyes and long mechanical arms. Guardian Alpha, Leora whispered. It protects the temple core. And it thinks. We're intruders. Why is it chasing us now? It must have followed the beacon. It's linked to old codes. It thinks we're stealing data. The robot moved toward the cave, scanning the area with its glowing eyes. Jack grabbed a large rock and looked. At Leora, can you move? Not fast enough. Jack thought fast. Then I'll lead it away. Maybe it'll follow me. Leora grabbed his arm. No, Jack. It'll kill you. Not if I'm quick. You've done enough. And I'm not stopping now. He ran out of the cave and shouted, Hey, ugly. Over here? The Guardian turned. Its red eyes locked on him. Jack picked up another rock and threw it at the machine. It hit the shoulder, making a loud clang. The robot roared again and started moving toward him. Jack ran along the cliff's edge, leading the machine away from the cave. He dodged falling rocks and broken ground, heart racing. The Guardian's steps shook the earth. As he reached a higher ledge, he saw something, an old fuel pod buried in the dirt. Maybe from an old dig team? And beside it, a broken mining tool with a glowing core. He had an idea. He grabbed the mining tool and slammed it into the fuel pod. Sparks flew. The robot climbed after him, closing the distance. Jack ran back, lit a flare from his belt, and tossed it into the leaking fuel. The explosion was fast and loud. Fire rose high into the sky. The robot took the hit full force and stumbled backward. Its armor cracked and sparking, Jack fell to the ground, covering his head. When the smoke cleared, the Guardian stood still and collapsed. Jack coughed and stood up slowly. Never mess. With an engineer. A moment later, the rescue ship flew overhead. It hovered near the cave, and 2 med officers rushed down. Jack ran back, leading them to Laura. They lifted her gently and helped Jack aboard. As the ship rose into the sky, Jack looked out the window and saw the temple far below quiet again, buried in dust. Liora took his hand. We survived. We did more than that, Jack said. We saved each other. The rescue ship flew high above the cliffs, carrying Jack and Leora away from the ruined temple. Through the wide glass window, Jack watched the broken ground far below, where the explosion had destroyed the Guardian robot and sealed part of the ancient entrance once again. Smoke still rose from the rocks, but it looked distant now, like something from a bad dream. Inside the ship, soft lights glowed and clean air filled their lungs. It felt strange to breathe easily again. It felt even stranger to sit still without dust, heat, or fear chasing them. Jack sat beside Leora, who now rested on a padded medical bed. Her bandaged leg was uncovered, and beneath the wrappings, the new limb had fully formed down to the ankle. Her toes were still soft and pink, like fresh skin, but it was there real and whole. The ship's medic looked amazed. I've never seen regeneration like that. Her body works faster than any healing I've studied. Leora gave a weak smile. I told you it would return. Jack grinned. I almost didn't believe you, but now I feel kind of silly for doubting. The medic checked her pulse and temperature, then nodded. You'll need rest. Maybe a few days before putting full weight on it. But your vitals are strong. You'll be fine. Leora closed her eyes for a moment. Thank you. The medic walked away, giving them privacy. Jack leaned forward. You're safe now. Really safe. Leora looked at him. I know. And you're the reason why. You gave the idea, Jack said. I just followed your lead. You trusted me. Even when it was strange. Even when it hurt. Jack nodded. And you trusted me enough to let me help. That means something. The ship's comms buzzed. A voice came through the speaker. This is Central Base. We're bringing you in. Full decontamination ready. Prep for landing. Jack looked out the window again. In the distance, the human-alien base came into view, a wide dome with tall towers and landing pads filled with research ships. Lights blinked in rows, and people walked across the ground, waiting. Leora whispered. They're going to ask what happened. We'll tell them, Jack said. But not just the facts. We'll tell them what it meant. A few minutes later, the ship touched down with a soft thud. The door opened, and a warm breeze filled the cabin. A team of officers, scientists, and commanders stood outside, waiting. Jack helped Leora to her feet. She tested her new leg slowly. It wobbled at first, but she found her balance. Jack offered her his arm. Ready? He asked. As ready as I'll ever be. Together, they stepped off the ship. Cameras clicked. Drones floated above, recording everything. People stared at Leora's leg, at the dust covering Jack's uniform, at the burns on his arms. The base commander, a tall woman with gray hair and a serious face, stepped forward. Jack Miller, Leora of Ceylon. You've been gone for 2 days. What happened out there? Jack looked around, then began to speak. He told them everything about the cave-in, the trapped chamber, the crushed leg. He spoke of Leora's decision. Her regeneration, the creatures that attacked, the sanctuary, and the rising core. He told them about the final escape, the fight with the Guardian robot, and the signal they sent that saved their lives as he spoke. People listened without a sound. Liora added her voice. Speaking of her people's history, the lost technology, and the bravery she saw in Jack. She explained that humans and Cylons had worked together before, but this moment showed something deeper. It showed what could happen when fear was replaced by trust. When they finished, no one clapped, no one cheered. They simply stood there, quiet and thoughtful. Finally, the commander stepped forward. You risked your life for each other. You trusted where most would have doubted. That means more than any discovery. She looked at the crowd. We came here to study the past. But today, we saw the future. Jack looked at Leora. She smiled softly. That night, after rest and food, Jack stood on a balcony overlooking the stars. The base lights glowed below. The air was cool, and the sky was clear. Leora walked up beside him, wearing a clean robe. Her new leg was now fully steady. She stood tall and strong again. "What happens next?" she asked. Jack thought for a moment. "I'll probably study the temple. With caution this time, but you and we're part of something bigger now." "A story?" "No," Jack said. "A beginning." She looked up at the stars. "Our worlds used to fear each other, but not anymore. You helped change that. So did you." A moment passed between them, quiet but full of meaning. Leora turned to him. "You know, in my culture, when someone saves your life, you don't just thank them. You walk with them. Learn from them. Build with them." Jack looked at her. "What do you mean? Maybe we're not just partners. Maybe we're the first thread of something stronger. It's not just peace, connection." Jack nodded. "I'd like that." She smiled. "Then let's walk together." They stood there, side by side, as the night grew quiet. Below them, the base prepared new missions, careful plans, and teams ready to explore. But Jack and Leora had already explored something more important: what it meant to trust across species, to survive together, and to rise even from the darkest places. Because sometimes, the strongest paths begin when you're broken, and someone chooses to carry you.